evening. How is everybody doing on this Wednesday in July, y'all? It's summertime, and it's a hot one, and it's about to get hotter. I'm trying to tell you. Okay, so I know y'all are not expecting to see my face right here, right now, but it's a special occasion for some special young people. And I felt like I had to get up here and remind everybody in case y'all forgot what is about to happen here. So our Virtual Village 2020 influencers are back. They took a 2-week break because they did important things like graduate, like complete a school year. And, after an unprecedented pandemic occurred, they came and just ripped this thing. The task that they were given to them as interns, they just came through and exceeded any and everybody's expectations. And we are super, super, super proud of them. And they are back. Like they didn't want to abandon the project, and we definitely didn't want to see them go. So the time has come for them to come back. And if you have been tuning in before, then you see that these are young Black Gen Z youth who know what is going on. They are well read, they are well versed, they are very well rounded. Everything about them is dope. They are steeped in our history and our culture, and they got things to say. And they have things to say that from our Black youth perspective, talking about social political issues, okay? And they're dope. Like, if you did not tune in before, then this is the perfect time for you to start, all right? Because those of us who know, every Wednesday, we are glued to these screens at 7 p.m. to check them out. So with that said, y'all don't have to just believe me. You can see for yourself, because I guarantee when you hear these young people talk, you're going to be like, they're how old? So let me just remind you that they are all 17 and under, okay? So don't say I didn't warn you. Don't ask the questions. But influencers, y'all bring your lovely, talented, intellectual, fun, funny, everything kind of sells back on up here, okay? Ooh. I'm so happy to see y'all. I'm so happy to see y'all. Oh my goodness. Okay, beautiful Black people tuned in. I'm telling you, they're about to go in. They're about to give it to you. How are y'all feeling this evening?
Great.
I feel great. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Y'all are looking great. So we are ready for this energy. We are ready for the dream team is back. Okay. Okay. The dream team is back. So, like I said, y'all didn't come to hear me. Y'all came to hear them. They got a whole show. Look, and I have to know, because they were gone for 2 weeks. So I was kind of like, okay, are they going to fall out of the swing of things? Sure enough, Kalia, right on time on Monday, sent me the treatment for their show, what they're going to be talking about. I'm like, they don't miss a beat. And they are teen years old, but they're college bound. Some of them are headed to their senior year, and some are headed to a junior year. So I love y'all. I'm excited to have y'all back, and I'm going to step away and I'm going to let y'all do your thing. Okay. All right, influencers, let's get it.
How y'all doing? Ooh, I'm nice in the middle and everything. Makes it easy. So, how y'all doing? That was Miss Star. She is the founder of Clever Communities in Action, which is a nonprofit literacy-based organization in Norfolk, Virginia, centered around culturally affirming literature for Black youth. And what we are the original Virtual Village 2020 influencers. I'm Jamir. Here we have Kalia. There we have Q. These are my seniors. So we all graduated. I'm going to the illustrious Howard University. They're going to, other HBCUs.
Then University. I'm sorry. He tried to slide past it like where I'm going ain't thebomb.com.
I like how we went on break and we still arguing about HBCUs. Like, Graham isn't the best one. Come on.
The game is the game, baby. The game is the game.
You're doing too much.
But below us, we have Trinity and Ayana, who are also part of the gang here, and they just haven't graduated yet. And we're missing Paul. Paul, fan favorite. We all love Paul. Paul is busy doing some other things. Like we said, Paul's great. He's working on his own moves and making sure that he's ready. I know that Paul's been doing a lot of working out, so his body's a little bit sore and his mind sore from just having all of those amazing thoughts as well. So it's just going to be us five, but we back after a 2-week hiatus, and we got something It's gonna be amazing for you. Shout out to GSU, right? I see. Shout out to Ground. I give love to all the HBCUs, but I give the most love to the only HBCU. And to keep it pushing, oh man, I miss this. I miss this. I just feel it already. I just feel good. But like we said, we were gonna always wanted to raise the bar. And what better way to come back after a 2-week hiatus and kick you something than to talk about your place in the grand scheme of everything. And Q brought this to us, and you basically want to talk about the collective and the individual. So since this is Q, let's give Q the mic here. There we go, brother.
All right, so real quick, I just want to bring up how I got this idea. Over our break, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and he was talking to me. He was like, "I don't see what's the point of arguing over these situations. Like, I don't see how slavery impacts me because I didn't go through slavery." And I'm like, "No, you can't think of it like that because your past is your history, and that's important to you. You got to know the past so you can move on to the future." And so therefore I got this idea, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring on the first topic, which is individualism versus collectivism. Is there a difference between being a black person and being with black people? And if so, explain. And we're gonna start this off with Jadmir. Jadmir.
You rusty. You rusty. I got it
Just a
though. I
little.
got it. Oh man. So is there a difference from being an individual and a part of the collective? Yeah, I would definitely say so, especially in the black community. Whereas the individual, because we're a very unified culture, despite what everyone wants us to believe. Black people we're a tight knit community. Like I know I got a bunch of friends who I consider cousins. That's how close we are. Where you just meet somebody in life and they immediately become a part of your family like that, and that's not something that's really seen. So when it comes to the collective, a lot of black people understand that the only way to actual black liberation is through the collective of everybody who's a part of the black community, every marginalized group getting what's owed. So that way everybody can make sure that we all get the respect we deserve in this country. So I would say when it comes to understanding our history and understanding the racism and the systemic oppression that we've been through, it's important because this right here illuminates the collective, and that requires some individuals who come in and they sort of do the research and read a little bit, and then you make it palatable for the collective to disseminate, and that's how everything just grows through there. So to answer your question, I would say that the individual is important to sort of educate the collective, but as a whole, black people tend to be a tight-knit community anyway, so it's a lot easier for us to work as individuals together, if that makes sense. And I'll kick that off to Khalid, not Rusty.
Okay. I'm gonna be rusty. I'm gonna tell y'all that right now. But I feel like there is a difference between being a black person as an individual and then being with black people as a collective. I feel like being a black person, there really is no set definition, even though society tries to make one. There is no set definition to being a black person. Like it ranges in skin tone, it ranges in hair type, it ranges in taste, what you like to eat, what you like to do. It's all just a unique blend. Since everyone descends from us, there's going to be a wide variety of black people. So a black individual could think different than a lot of other black people, could speak different from a lot of other black people, could look very different from a lot of black people, but still be a black person because they descend directly from black people. Now, being with black people as a collective, now that's a whole different ballgame. Because to be with black people is to understand that each black person is uniquely different for one. So you can't judge one black person on how they talk, on what they choose to love, on what they choose to worship, or none of that. You can't split hairs on the individual to be with black people. To be with black people is to understand that when it's time to come together and fight against everything that everybody else has put against us, you know that even though we're different, we're one. And so that we fight together as one, like we come together as one person to fight for whatever we're fighting for. It's so much that we have to fight for as black people. It would be unreasonable to try to list all of them on this one show. But being with black people as a collective is basically shedding the individuality of a black person and coming together as like a transformer, as like a ultra megabot, and coming forward and being like, you can't do this to all of us because we're all one person. And with that, I'll pass that down to Trinity. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. I'm gonna piggyback off of what Kalia said. Like, I do think that it is a difference between being an individual and being part of the collective. Because as an individual, you are prone to be yourself, and you are most likely to be yourself. Like, you could be an engineer, you could be an artist, a dancer, anybody. But when it comes to being part of the collective, you are uniting with people just like you, and you're uniting with people that has the same struggles as you and want the same thing as you. And that's my 2 cents. So I'm gonna pass that on to Ayana.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Q said about how some people say since slavery didn't affect me, and you know how they just say ignorant stuff like that. So when we look down at our skin, we consider ourselves as black, but there's a big difference between being black and being with and for black people. So I was watching Minister Louis Farrakhan over the weekend, and he said oftentimes the system is designed to protect celebrities, whether they're actors, football players, or basketball players. And their goal is to hide them from horrors and the mistreatment of Black people, such as the police brutality, so their voices are silenced from speaking out. But I read that racism, I think it was a Facebook post. It said, I read that racism is like COVID-19. You don't believe it's real until it affects you personally. And I think that's the mindset of many Black people. So if it doesn't really affect them, then they'll just stay the individual they are, living the good life that they have. But I think that needs to change, and people should recognize the reality of racism and the situations that many Black people, it may not just be you, but many Black people face today, and just rise together as a collective and show support for one another. And with that, I'll pass it back to Q.
First off, Jameer, I got my WD-40. The rust is all off, so I'm good now. So there is a difference between being a Black person and Black people, because a person, that's individual, and people, that's collectivism. And we got to start having a collectivism point of view towards things. An individualistic point of view is nothing but a Western world thinking, which was formed, and it's a new form of thinking. But instead, in the Eastern Hemisphere, they have a collective form of thinking where they want to be together and unite. And that's the form of point of mind where we have to have, especially in this point in time where you got all these atrocities happen to Black people. So with that, I want to say that it's important for Black people to come together because there's power in numbers. It's important for us to come together because if you look at our history, we came over here through slave ships. We came over here together. So how do we get at this? We come out of this together. So it's important for us to group together and to kind of expound. Yeah, to expound more upon what Ayana said about the celebrities. Celebrities get taken out, like when they first start off, they're like probably in the hood, and they're like, all right, when I come up, I want to bring my family up with me. I want to bring my friends up. But once they get up to this certain level, that they forget about everything, and that's that individualistic point of view, and they think that because they're good, nothing doesn't matter. But you got to look at the other kids who are in the hood, the other kids who are struggling, and you got to help everybody and make sure everything is right. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and bring on our second topic, which is, are there any detriments to being a part of the collective? And is it more detrimental to stay to the self or be part of the collective? And with that, I'm gonna drop it off to Ayana.
I got it. So, I think it's more detrimental to stay to oneself, because my dad always said that you can't get anywhere by yourself, and trying to accomplish something by yourself or not trying at all is a path to self-destruction. So I think it's important to make this a group effort, because we can't accomplish much by ourselves. And so I just think collectivism is just very important, because working together and working hard to achieve a common goal is very important. So with that, I'll pass it to Trinity.
So I think it's more detrimental to be part of the individual, because you can't, like Ayana said, you can't get nowhere by yourself, really. You need help, you need peers, you need family, you need friends, you need people who have access to other things that can help you get to where we as a collective need to be. What else I'm gonna say? That's it. Pass that on to Kalia. I know. I feel like Paul.
We got to embrace Paul's spirit since he's not with us here. We got to embrace his spirit. So, for everybody at home, if you have something in the comments that's just not coming out, make sure you do this for Paul, guys. So, I think it's more detrimental to stay as an individual, because as an individual you're only left to your own devices, and if you stay within yourself you're only thinking of what affects you and what is right to you and what is wrong to you, and what's right or wrong to you is different from what's right and wrong to the majority. So if you stay within yourself and you just, you know what I'm saying, keep your mindset to yourself, you hone in on information that could be spread that could help the collective, like Marcus Garvey, who had an amazing economic plan, but he kept it all within himself. He wanted everybody to follow him. He wanted to be the end all be all. So when he did end off, it was just done. Nobody else could pick up the baton because he didn't tell anybody else. And I feel like as a collective, we're more strong when we are together. And we need everybody's individual mindset, of course, but as a collective, we have more power and we have more, we bring more attention to ourselves. So with that, I'll pass that over to Jamir. Oh, I got it right.
Clowns. But everybody said essentially what everybody was saying is that it's important to be a part of the collective because that's how actual progress continues. And I wanted to hit on the part of the question where it says, are there any detriments to being a part of the collective? And there are, like, definitely, especially when it might not feel like you can visibly be a part of the collective. So you might be the only black person in a space, but you still represent black people. So when you speak out against something that's like not kosher whatsoever in a predominantly non-black space, then it's kind of dangerous for you because you don't know how these people are going to react, and they might become like, they might try to blackball you in a sense. And I think that's where a lot of upper echelon people have that mindset where they can't be so outspoken or so pro-black because they get a lot of their checks and things from white people or at least non-black people. So they feel like it's dangerous to closely associate with the masses of black people. And when it comes to actual like average Joes, like just regular black people, some of us we're adverse to actually advocating for blackness because we don't know how it's going to be received, because we might not be in a space that's actually affirming of blackness itself. So you might hold your tongue in an instance because it just wouldn't help you in the future. And a lot of people think, well, I got to play this smart and close to the chest, and I'll just like let some things slide here or there. So there are detriments to being a part of the collective because we live in a white supremacist society that gatekeeps a lot of things for us. And I think through acting as a collective and making sure that we don't have black people in those positions where they have to give up their morals so they can appease racists, I feel like that'd be conducive to us as a people, because that way we have people who stick by what they believe in and who also profit from what they believe in, and they won't be like forced into a box in a sense that they have to give up a piece of their blackness or a piece of their pride so that they can just make ends meet. And with that, I'll kick it back to Q. No rust, never lost, never lost.
And I went the wrong way. So with that, I want to say so celebrities or people who have, not just celebrities, but people who have high status, and I should say, when they like make it big and they forget about their roots and they forget about their blackness, and they just they're like have the individualistic point of view where it's like, well, it doesn't impact me because I'm not the one going through it. It's very traitorous of them to think of it like that. And it's like Judas of them to think of it like that. And like how Judas traded out Christ and Christ had to die, therefore died for that. It's like you're also killing the body. You're killing the black nation when you do that as well. And so when you kind of like forget about it, it is very detrimental to just think since you're good, everything else is good, because you just give yourself tunnel vision and you block everything else around. And so you don't know what could happen. Like your child could end up getting into a situation, and then you would want to open your eyes, but then therefore you will open your eyes too late. And that's why it's a detriment to have an individualistic point of view. And I think it is more important to have a collective point of view and gather together. And with that, my homie Jamir, I gave him a reading piece, and this is gonna be our intermission. I'm a hop off the screen. Hopefully everybody else hop off the screen. I'm gonna let him do what he got to do.
Oh man, you a clown, Q. So Q came up with the idea for the individual versus the collective this week, and he said that like he said, "Jai, man, I want you to do the intermission," and I was like, "Okay." And then he was like, "I need you to do this Douglas piece," and y'all already know how I feel about Frederick Douglass. Like one of the first weeks or two of me doing the internship, I was just reading my Bondage and My Freedom, getting real acquainted with him. So when Q was like, "I need you to do what to the American slave is the 4th of July," I was like, "You doggone right, I do it. I do it, and this is what we're gonna do." Because like we said, this is an intermission. We always try to incorporate literacy or some form of literature into our shows, because Clever Communities in Action was founded on culturally affirming literature. So this right here is just a small excerpt from Douglas's speech, but it still rings true and is still exceptionally accurate, which is Frederick Douglass was clairvoyant, man. So we'll begin. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are, to him, mere bombas, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up the crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Frederick Douglass. And the reason why I was really hype about Q sending me this slight excerpt is because I could wax poetic a little bit about what Douglass was meaning here. And it really breaks down what the 4th of July truly means to Black people, is that it's a day of hypocrisy and it's an acute patriotism in a sense, whereas the country is to celebrate the defeating of the British Empire and the liberation of men, and a new revival of thought that means that all consent of government comes from those who are governed. Yet, Black people were omitted from this, as well as women. And it really just, you can feel Douglas's ire here, where he basically comes out and he just calls them, he relates the 4th to swelling vanity, empty and heartless. Denunciations of tyrants are brass-fronted impudence. And as we can see, hollow mockery. And what we're saying is we see the two-sided character of America here, in a sense that on one side, this is the dual consciousness in a sense. Not like I just love Du Bois. So we're going to bring, but this is the dual consciousness that Douglass basically lets out and just lets it bear. The fact that on one side, we have an America that can rejoice the liberties and freedoms of all men because they're created equal in the eyes of God. Yet on the other hand, we have a men and women, a race of people relegated to beast and breeders in a sense. And that's the weird thing we have here. So, and what makes it even more damning is the sense that this is the 4th of July. Black people fought in the Revolutionary War, which is what Kalia mentioned in an earlier excerpt. If you guys were here for that, and if you weren't, I suggest go back and looking at that one because she was great. But It's the fact that for all types of freedoms, from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Spanish War, the Cuban War, the Philippine War, the both world wars, and all the wars in the Middle East, Black people have been at the forefront fighting for the country. Yet we are still relegated to third class citizenship, and we are still supposed to be subject to this odd mockery where we can't even be proud of the country that we built, because while we were building it, we were told that we could never reap any of the privileges or benefits from it. And that's truly the damning piece that Douglas is saying in the 4th of July. He's basically chastising America and the people who founded this country, because how can you, in a document that is so revolutionary to humanity, say that all men are created equal, omit all men? It just doesn't make sense. And that's truly what the 4th of July is to not just the American slave, but the contemporary Black person, in a sense that America is a country built on the backs of Black people, as well as white hypocrisy. And with that, I'll bring my guests back on. Yes, they're my guests because I've taken over the show. But I'll bring you guys back on.
I
I
was
know you
about
got
to
something to
say,
say.
like, what are we here for? What are we here for? What do they need us for?
Told you, man, I've been waiting to get back in the booth.
This is the Jamir Show, featuring the rest of us. I'm sorry, guys.
It really be like that sometimes. It's all good though.
Y'all cool, I guess, but the people came to see me.
Oh,
Right. I forgot time here.
Next question.
So no more team takeover. It's now Jamir Takeover featuring the 4 other influencers, and when Paul's here, 5.
Nah, man, but I appreciate you giving me that piece right there, because that really did something to my spirit, man. I really felt that. Like, always a fan of Douglas. Always a fan of Douglas. Always.
Yes, sir. I had to get Jamir to read it. I was scrolling through Instagram and I seen that. I was like, this, I need Jamir to read this. Like, did you guys hear the way, like, when he was reading how he, like, it was like 1, 2, 3, like the way he has with the words. I was like, this is Jamir all written all over it, and I had to do it. It was a great piece, goes along perfectly with what we were talking about, and I just hope you guys enjoyed it. Anybody else got something to say about it? No, it was just that great. That shutdown. Jamir, you want to bring in our next topic for the people?
I got you. I see the Eddie Kane. I see Eddie Kane Jr. right here. Might have to go watch it when we get done with the show. But the next topic is, in the sense, we're still in the same trend of the individual and the collective, but now we're going into, especially understanding the current social climate with the organic nature of the Black Lives Matter movement and subsequent movements, the individual and the collective in terms of leadership. And we would say that, like, what were the benefits of having a single leader or a consolidated leadership when it came to past movements? And we'll start this one off with Trinity. See if I can shoot that all the way down there. She got it. She got it.
I got it. So, wait, repeat the question one more time.
Y'all rusty, man. Y'all rusty.
I know. I got the WD-40 out.
What were the benefits of having a single leader in past social media?
Okay, so the benefits of having a single leader is that they didn't need anybody else to consent with, anybody to go over their ideas with anybody, because they were going to do it by themselves. I think that instead it was better, not really better, but it was better to have an individual person instead of a whole group, because you didn't have to you didn't have to share your ideas with anybody or stop, y'all making me laugh. Y'all didn't have to guys, y'all, this private chat is jumping over here. They talking about me. So you didn't have to share your ideas with anybody, or you didn't have to consent with anybody on your ideas. So it was just you, and you was producing what you had to do. And I'm gonna pass that on to Ayana.
Okay. So, the movement led by Martin Luther King Jr. Really stands out to me in history. Having a single leader is beneficial to the movement because many people get sidetracked by the idea of who's in charge and who wants to be in charge rather than focusing on what they have to accomplish. So most people like King as their leader. And it's important to have someone to take charge rather than people leading themselves and having them lose sight of their mission. That was specific for that time period, but now it's not so relevant because now people are leading the movement and they're doing a really great job at it. And so different leadership methods and movement methods change over time. And during that time, King was a phenomenal leader that many looked up to. So there's different methods for leadership, whether it's individual or it's a collective. And so with that, I'll pass it to Kalia.
I don't like how y'all moving this right now. I have my mindset it's gonna go cute and Jamir, but the benefits to me of having a single leader is it's one focal point. Like I know now, especially with the new Black Lives Matter movement, there is a widespread of leaders, so it's like more spread out and dispersed across all sectors. But it's harder to keep a centralized message, and it's harder to know who to look to when things go awry, when there's not a single focal point leader. Like with Martin Luther King, once Martin Luther King said something, everybody just went with it. Like if Martin Luther King came out and was like, okay, we're going to boycott this, everybody just moved with it because he was one focal leader. If Fred Hampton came out and said, oh, we are going to rally against this, then everybody rallied against that because they were that one focal leader. It was a one centralized voice with one centralized message. So it wasn't like somebody else taking the message and splitting it into 30 different reimaginations of the message. It was just one central message that everyone followed. And so now with the new movement, we have to worry about everybody's minds taking the message and interpreting it how they want to interpret it, and then spewing it out to their followers in the way that they want to interpret it. So with one central leader, it would just make the movement more focal and more uniform versus just having leaders everywhere. But we all learned from the tragedies that happened to our leaders like Fred Hampton, like Marcus Garvey, like Assata Shakur, Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton. Like it's so many names of leaders that just happened to pass away after galvanizing more races and more people. So with that, I'll pass that down to Q.
Gotcha. So, there are benefits of having one leader. One person I do look at is Malcolm X being leader once he left the Nation of Islam. He was like his own thing. It was him and his other people, but he was like at the forefront of his movement, and being at the forefront, it's like a lot of things you got to be at the forefront of your own movement. You got to make sure you don't mess up, because being at the forefront, being a single leader, if you mess up, the whole nation, your whole group organization messed up. So you got to really be careful. But a leader, he also had to be very eloquent, good with his words, know how to speak very well. And that's why I look up to Malcolm, because he was a great leader. And so, and with being a leader, you also have to be good, and your organization has to be on one accord, because you don't want your organization, like Kalia said, how people have when there's like kind of sparsed out and people are kind of doing this and doing that and doing that. When you have one leader, you want everything to be on one accord, make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to go, and there's like no errors within and no holes within your plans, no holes within your organization, so things run smoothly. And with that, I'm gonna throw that up to Jamir.
Whew, we got it. It's secure. Oh man. When it comes to the okay, so what are the benefits of having a central leader? Like everyone said, we mentioned the Garveys, the Hamptons, the Martins, the Malcolms, and it makes things a lot easier in the past. But currently, um, it's we've seen the negative effects of what happens when we do have someone become the face of blackness or the face of a black issue. They're typically assassinated, or they're deported if you're Garvey. And so basically, it's become kind of taboo to be pushed up as sort of the black leader and a genuine black leader, because we do have political leaders out there who say that they're for the black cause, but they're really just there to get their attention in the limelight, and they're riding off the coattails of civil rights greats. So it would say that when it comes, the benefits of having a single leader and everything being concentrated is that the movement is streamlined because one voice can command the hearts of thousands of millions of people, and everything can just flow, and we'll all just act on that one feeling of retribution that we all feel. But the detriments of having it is that when that leader is taken away from us, the movement becomes greatly derailed because there's a vacuum, which leads to a power struggle, and then everything breaks apart. So I would say that when it comes to leaders in the past, we should definitely have champions of these issues, but they should be champions who are the championship should be spread out among different fields. So there's not just one person, but it's everybody contributing at the same time. And this is where the importance of the collective comes, because if everybody is if everybody is a 10, then if even if they try to pick one of us off, then the revolution continues, which is what Fred Hampton was really saying. And really love Fred Hampton because he really believed in the egalitarian revolutionary idea. And this is why he had everyone say that I am a revolutionary at the end of all of his messages, because that's truly what it is. Everybody is revolutionary. Everybody can be a leader as long as they tap into what they're going to lead in, which brings us to our next topic was what can we learn from the single leaders of the past and how can we leverage this in our fights today? And I'll kick this one off back down to Q, my brother.
So, what can we learn from the past and how can we leverage it? So, what we can learn from the past is well, to tie it in with the collectivism point of view, we can learn from the past is there have been many future great, I mean, not future, but past great leaders who we know, Jameer, Kalia, Ayana, Trinity, they all named a whole bunch of them. But as we look at it, there was like still division between them. Like Garvey and the boys had their arguments. Malcolm and Martin, they were going at it back and forth. And it's like, why? Why are they going back for? Why are they debating when at the end of the day they have the same goal of uplifting the black community in mind? But just because you have your minor little differences, then you cause division and oh my bad. I did kind of miss it. So I'm sorry, that's what I was saying. So when you got those minor differences causing division within your community or within your organizations, and now you're beefing with other organizations, is really detrimental, and you're kind of hurting the cause because now you're focused on whose group is possibly better, whose group have more members, whose group is better. And really, when you come down to it, it's pretty much like Bloods and Crips right now. Like you're not even trying to you're trying to be better instead of trying to embetter the black community when that is the thing at hand. But instead, what we can do, we can learn from those paths and instead drop the little disagreements we have, unite, come together. And like I said earlier, there's powers in numbers. So if we drop our differences and come under one thing, then who can stop us? Because we'll be nothing but great. And with that, I'm gonna pass that on to Ayana.
Once again, Martin Luther King Jr., he was a strong leader that many continue to admire, and his strategies to achieve justice really stood out even today. So his strategies really stood the test of time. So one strategy we can use today is boycotting. So I don't know if you guys knew this, or participated in it, but it was blackout held on July 7th, which was yesterday. But that's an example of events that we should participate and actually host more often, because the black dollar is definitely powerful, and the power of color, like the power of our dollar alone. We spend billions in the economy every year, but it's our job to use the power that the black dollar has and spend it in our own communities. And we have to hit the pockets of these white businesses to help bring about change. And then I also believe protesting that was used in the 1900s is essential to bring about awareness as well. So with that, I'll pass it to Jaimir.
Got it. So Man, I'm just happy because I missed this, man. Like 2 weeks, I didn't know I needed this for real, for real. I'm just happy to be back. But when it comes to what can we learn from the leaders of the past is basically we can take their organizing methods and their activist methods and their protest methods, and we can apply that to modern society and the modern issues that we have today. Because it's a lot harder to organize a bus boycott when everybody's using Uber and things are different where public transportation isn't so heavily relied upon. So it's really the private sector that's getting over on us if a part of that. And so when it comes to how we can use that in our fights today, it really comes from what we're seeing in the Black Lives Matter movement, where each city is organizing and protesting and issuing their own demands, because that way it reaches their localities in the best way. Because there is no blanket statement that can really just solve all of police brutality for us right now, or just white supremacy or racism. So we see the case by case organic uprising in these cities come out, and they issue these demands to their mayors and their city councils. And then we see that it's addressed in the city because racism has affected all of us, but it's affected all of us differently. So the issues of the West Coast and the East Coast and the Midwest and the South are going to vary greatly, and especially in those states. So I would say that leveraging how leveraging each city's fight using the same methods and updated methods will truly help us in the understanding what's going on, and which is why the organic method we have now is probably the best way to go through that. But organic doesn't mean isolated or compartmentalized. So when we see our brothers and sisters in St. Louis and our brothers and sisters in New York and LA and what's the southern city, Atlanta, we all got to organize and work with them in a sense. So we're all connected, and we all lend each other each other's strength, but we also address the problems within our cities the best way we know how. And I'll pass that off to go ahead.
Right. So I totally agree with everything that everybody else is saying. One thing that we can really learn and take from our leaders in the past is that not what the government or the systems wanted us to take from it within their death, like how they plastered them everywhere after they passed, and how they always emphasize how they have left us in such tragic ways. Not what they wanted us to learn from them, but their strategies, and learning how to apply it in this age of social media where there can be different leaders all across the nation and all across the world with just the click of your keyboard. We can also learn that instead of having a consolidated leader, we can have a group of leaders who are all going off the same plan. It's easier to organize now because of the internet. So we can have a group of leaders going off all of the same plan with one collective message, but doing it in their own sectors and spheres. And piggybacking off of what Jameer said, is amazing to see how our generation and the millennials and Generation X have all come together to try and dismantle their own states and their local level of racism versus everybody just trying to combat it at a national level. Everybody is starting off within their own cities, within their own states, and we're working our way up, dismantling, unraveling the system from where it most impacts us now till we get to the top, basically. And so I feel like that way is more impactful because the racism deep down in Mississippi is different from the racism in Virginia, which is going to be different from the racism in Michigan. And so I enjoy seeing how our peers, especially us being as young as we are, and us being in a world where we can be so easily influenced by anybody and everybody's words, how our generation is coming together and really honing in on being pro-Black, on honing in on fighting Black issues, making these companies and corporations.
Well, that was a technical difficulty. I mean, came back and broke the internet.
Well,
And it's probably
maybe
because
let's
maybe her
go.
laptop died.
Oh man.
Yes.
Man.
So this took me off. I was like, dang, I think the government's trying to get me. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. But just basically coming together as a collective, I'm gonna stop before the government try to hack my Chromebook. And I'm gonna pass it up to Trinity.
Okay, so I agree with what everybody said. I think that we can learn a lot from our past leaders. It's just that now that in the day of age of technology, we can modernize a lot of things. We can connect with people in different cities. Like we can say, oh, there's gonna be a protest gathering at Oceanfront at like 6 o'clock, and a lot of people can see that. A lot of people can share things. A lot of people can inform a lot of people in a lot of cities. Like, let's say that'll get to somebody in Virginia Beach. Somebody will see that in Norfolk. It's a lot of things that we can do today because we have the power of technology. And I think that is one of the benefits and one of the things that we have as an upper hand than a lot of people, than our leaders and the situations back in the day. And with that, I'm going to pass that on to our host, one of y'all. One of y'all.
All right, okay, it's all good. It doesn't even matter because what we're gonna do is we had a great idea brought to us by one of our influencers named Miss Kalia. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to her so she can drop her ideas. Yeah, I did it right.
All right. So during this 2 week hiatus, even though I wasn't completely off because of all the community work that we have been doing, I did have a lot of ample time. So what I was doing in that time was taking advantage of white people guilt and looking at the Black Lives Matter collection on Netflix and the Black Stories collection on Hulu that were added in light of all of the Black Lives Matter tragedies. And I know a lot of people think that watching documentaries is kind of a loophole to get out of reading, and I was kind of thinking that way too. But after watching those documentaries and watching those stories, it actually made me want to read more. I wanted to learn more about the different institutions that were put in place. I wanted to learn more about the different people who were in charge of those institutions. I just wanted to learn more. So what I challenged our influencers to do was pick a show or two or three that challenged them and made them want to research more about things that affected Black people or people who impacted Black people. So I'll definitely start first. I got two for y'all. My first documentary is on Netflix. It's called 13th 13th and it's basically about the loophole in the 13th Amendment that still allows slavery under the pretenses that we are free, because the 13th Amendment says it abolishes slavery, that slavery is illegal except for when you've been convicted of a crime or punishment. So it makes slavery legal in prison systems. And Lord and behold, all of the legislation put on after that mass incarcerated and pipeline Black people into prison. So that documentary made me look into all the different types of political organizations, political PACs, the FBI, all that different type of stuff. It made me want to research that more. And my second recommendation would be LA 92. That's also on Netflix, I think. And I like that because with all of the riots that were going on in Minneapolis and Atlanta, and as a result of all the racial injustices that have been going on, I've been seeing a lot, especially on social media, a lot of people in the older generation talking about like, this is not going to change anything. You guys are crazy. I don't know why you guys would think burning down buildings and this and that. And they just made it seem like it was some type of new thing, some type of crazy rebellious Generation Z thing. But then I look at LA 92, which goes back to when some of them older people were our age, and I'm looking like, yo, they were wilding. Like I'm talking like, you have to watch it. They were wilding. So it just made me look at like, okay, you burned down a Target or two, we ain't do nothing compared to that, and we're hopping onto track of legislation and pushes for government stuff and things of that nature. But they did all that for Rodney King, and what happened to him was horrific. And it was one of the first times that a tragedy like that had been recorded. So when they flipped stuff, they flipped the roof, they flipped the table, they was done with it. So I like LA 92 because it put into perspective that we're not reinventing the wheel. Like, we're just doing something that happened before. And even though they tore stuff up and they completely destroyed where they were living at, it did raise some red flags and it did cause change to be happening. So even though it looks crazy, it was definitely needed. And with that, I'll pass that up to Jamir.
Man, so we're going over the recommendations of shows, movies, documentaries that promote research. And a Netflix documentary that was really cool to watch, and it's a little bit on the outside of things, is the fact that I was watching Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. For those of y'all who don't know, Miles Davis is a jazz legend. Love Miles Davis, one of the dopest people ever. And it basically is it just goes and documents his life from his upcoming to his eventual death, his passing. And the reason why I say it's influential is because a lot of times we understand that black people make music for, and when we make music, it's us, it's our soul, it's our livelihoods, it's what we mean, it's what we speak. So Miles Davis going out there and basically catapulting jazz into a whole different atmosphere is influential, and it does a lot to understand just how dynamic black people's resistance to white supremacy is. Because, and one of the reasons why I wanted to suggest this is the fact that, like, it's a short little tidbit here. You might miss it in the documentary, but when Miles Davis is in class, he's in music school, and his teacher's going over the blues, and his teacher tells him that, you know, the blues was born out of the sorrow and the suffering of black people, and how it's a sad song, it's a sad genre. Miles Davis looks at this, like, raises his hand. He tells his teacher that they're lying, essentially, and that the blues is more than just tears. It's the fact that the blues are the fabrics of the souls of these field hands, and it expresses not only their sadness but their joys and their aspirations and their hope for a better life, and that truly is the blues right there. So Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. I mean, what's the other one? What's the other one? Outside of watching a documentary, I will say that a show that everybody should watch just to sort of understand black satirical comedy is most definitely the Boondocks, because I know it's different, but I know Paul would love that one. But I mean, the Boondocks is very cutthroat when it gives this analysis of black issues at the time, but it's always spot on, especially the earlier seasons, because everything hits and resonates, and it comes in a way that's palatable, it's funny, it's thought provoking as well. And I know a lot of things that relate to the Boondocks are still popping up now. So I would say just going in and watching the Boondocks. I know that's a little bit iffy for some people though, but I know Paul would love it. And I had to go in and throw something out for Paul real quick. And over that, I'll pass it to Ayana. Oh, Rusty. Oh.
Okay. So I think I have two recommendations too. One of them is Just Mercy. So that movie is one of my favorites. So when it first came out, and I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, this is going to be really good. And then I watched it probably a couple months ago, and it was mind blowing because first off, after I watched it, that fueled my future aspirations for wanting to become a criminal justice lawyer who exonerates people. Just seeing how people spend so much time in prison for for crimes they didn't commit. And so just seeing how often that happens, and then watching like a true story. And it was just really cool to see. And then my second recommendation is called For Life. It is a show that I recommended to Q. I said it was just a must watch. So you can find that on ABC. And so that show is about Aaron Wallace, who spends time in prison for a crime that he did not commit. And it's sad to see the choices that you have to face. So whether you can admit that you did the crime and then serve less time, or you can just go ahead and say, oh no, I'm actually innocent, and then face the possibility of serving life. But with him, he fights the system. He becomes a lawyer in prison. And then he eventually, they haven't released the second season, but I'm already sure that he's going to make it out of prison. But just seeing that struggle and that fight for justice, despite everything that's happening, it's just really inspiring to watch. And so with that, I'll pass it to Q.
So, I've seen all these shows. They're all amazing. 13, except 92. I got to see 92, Kalia. That's definitely on the watch list now. So, but I love Boondocks. She was actually my profile picture on my social media. And like Ayana said, she recommended me actually both movies. She recommended me the Just Mercy and For Life. Great shows. I thought she was gonna spoil For Life for me. I was about to get upset, but we're good. So, but my movie that I'm gonna recommend to you guys is on YouTube, and it is called Panther. It's about the Black Panthers. It's very good, very motivational movie. It made me want to look deeper into the Black Panther movement as a whole, and about how they started. It made me want to look more into Huey P. Newton, see what he did. It was a very good, and what I enjoyed most about the movie was, in the movie, Huey was talking to this guy, and he knew they were going to get infiltrated by the government, and so he was just talking about how he wanted to that guy who was getting infiltrated to kind of like play both sides, to like act like he's infiltrating the Panthers, but really come back to the Panther, and I just like found that like so motivational. Like, if you guys know me, Huey P. Newton is one of my like favorite Black historical figures behind Nat Turner, because he's a good old Virginia man too. So that is just some great recommendations given. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'm gonna throw it up to Trinity so she can give her recommendation.
I got it. It's right here. Thank you. So on Netflix, they are like limited series. So I suggest When They See Us. When They See Us was a very good documentary. I had to watch it. Me and my mom had to watch it in pieces because it was just so emotional. And then after that, we read up on a lot of the cases and a lot of the articles and a lot of everything about what everyone had to say about it, what was going on during that time. And it's a very, very well put together documentary. I also suggest the Madam C.J. Walker story. I aspire to also be a cosmetologist on the side of being a pediatrician. So watching that was very inspiring and very informational as well, to see that how someone has really taken over the beauty industry with basically nothing. And that's it. So, yeah. I don't know what else.
Whoa. Oh, okay. So with that virtual village, we are back, baby. Best believe it. Best believe we will be here next week, dropping more knowledge, dropping more facts, giving you that good information that we know you love and need to hear. And virtual village. First off, I would also like to say thank you, Ms. Starr. Thank you, Mr. Rodney, for making this great internship. Thank you for taking us a break, because just like NBA players need breaks so they can come back stronger than ever, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to keep pounding at it. And we're going to keep going, because we the LeBron James of this, boy. Man, we're going to stay grinding, stay doing our thing, Virtual Village. We hope you guys love and enjoy what we do for you guys. Make sure you guys watch the shows that we recommended. And throughout the month of July, Virtual Village, our nightly reads will only be on Thursday nights. I repeat that again. Our nightly reads will only be on Thursday nights. If you don't know what Thursday is, that is the next day. That is tomorrow, folks. So make sure you guys get your books. Make sure you guys read. We have 3 slots, 7 to 8. Make sure you read. Make sure you give us some more culturally affirming literature we know and love. Thank you, Virtual Village. And I will say, anybody else have anything else to say? No? We'll throw our V's up. Virtual Village gang, you already know what it is. Thank you, everybody, and good night.